When I was about 8 or 9 years old, I had this really cool BMX bike. But to be cool, I couldn't have the protective pads on the frame of the bike, the center shaft area, and then of course on the handlebars. It would not be cool to have those pads. So I'm riding this bike one day with my friends, and they go into the street and jump up on the curb and then get back on the sidewalk and keep going. Well, I followed them into the street, but I couldn't jump back up on the curb, because to do that, you have to pull up on the handlebars, and then your tire goes above the curb and on the sidewalk. But my tire wouldn't go above the curb. So I nailed the curb, and then my face went straight into the handlebars right here on my teeth, my gums. Of course, again, no protective pad on there, so my teeth and my gums hit that bar, and it just started gushing blood. Well, you can think about an 8 or 9-year-old having that happen to their face. I was frantic. I was crying. I was hysterical. And of course, no one was around. No one was there to help me. And then finally, after a few minutes, and I was far enough away from home where it wasn't going to be an easy walk, but after a few minutes, this lady shows up. She was walking her baby, and luckily she had tissues and napkins in her stroller, because you always got to be prepared when you have a baby, right? And so I put that on my mouth and kept it like that as I walked the rest of the way home. What that lady did for me was help me feel loved. I was desperate. I was needing help, and she was there to give that to me. And she didn't know me, and it didn't matter. She helped me, and she loved on me. And then I was able to go home and get help more from my mom and fully recover. That is loving others and loving your neighbor, just like the Good Samaritan. A priest, a Levite, and a Samaritan were out on a walk one day. No, this is not the start of a joke I'm going to tell you. It's actually a parable that Jesus told called the Good Samaritan. And it's out of Luke 10:25-37. So the priest, Levite, and Samaritan came upon a man who was robbed, beaten, and left for dead on the side of the road. When the priest saw the man laying there, he barely even turned his head. He didn't even want to look at him. In fact, he walked on the complete opposite side of the road to avoid him, intentionally avoid him. Next came the Levite. A Levite is from the tribe of Levi. This is one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The Levites' tribe was to be a priest for the nation of Israel. This was their calling. This was their job duties. So as he walked on by, he did the exact same thing as the priest. He went on the opposite side of the road, didn't even want to look at him, because his business and his comfort and where he was going was more important than helping. Now, before we go on, let me mention that the book of Leviticus gives a lot of detailed instructions, laws to the Israelites. They were not to touch a dead body, and if they did, they were going to be labeled unclean for a certain period of time. And this meant that they weren't allowed to associate with others. They had to distance themselves so that no one could interact with them until they were considered back clean. So the priest and the Levite had this in their minds. And that's really why they wanted to go on the opposite side of the road, to just make sure that nothing happened by chance, that this man, if he was dead, was going to make them unclean. Their business, them maintaining their purity, was more important than helping this man. And there's nothing wrong with being pure. In fact, that's a good thing. However, this man on the side of the road needed help. Lastly, a Samaritan walked by. You see, in Israel's history, there was a time when they were exiled into Babylon. Almost all of them were removed from the nation of Israel and brought to Babylon by the Assyrians. Those who stayed behind intermarried with the people who were in the land, and they were called, or created actually, they created Samaritans. Those other people didn't serve God, Yahweh, as the Israelites did. So naturally, they didn't worship in Jerusalem or consider Jerusalem holy, set apart as a place to worship. About 60 years later, the Israelites returned from Babylon. They stayed away from the Samaritan people and disassociated with them altogether. They were called Gentiles, and Jews never associated with Gentiles. So this Samaritan guy, he sees the robbed man, the beaten man, laying on the side of the road, left for dead. He sees him, and he takes pity on him, and he helps him. He didn't worry about being considered unclean or impure because he was already considered impure by the Israelites. He didn't care about that in any way. He saw someone in need and he helped him. It didn't matter who he was, where he was from, what he looked like, what happened to him in a previous life, or anything else. The Good Samaritan is about a worldview of unconditional love and grace. A worldview is how you see others and things in the world around you. It's how you perceive everything and everyone you encounter and establish your opinions and beliefs. What influences your worldview are your experiences, people, places, cultures, influencers, books you read, movies you watch, podcasts and music you listen to, faith doctrines you explore, and so on. The message Jesus wanted to convey when he told the parable of the Good Samaritan was a worldview shift. He wanted us to not maintain the worldview held by others or our society or our culture. And that standard is what we base our opinions and beliefs upon. Instead, Jesus wants our standard for our worldview to be God. Jesus wants us to love God and love our neighbor. So, who is our neighbor? What does loving our neighbor look like? It looks like what the Good Samaritan did. He picked up the hurt man, put him in the back seat of his Tesla, brought him to the nearest Marriott, and paid for him to stay there for a few days while he recovered and rested. He told the hotel manager that whatever expenses this man needed, that when he came back, he would pay it. So this man, if he needed medical supplies or whatever he needed, water or extra days rest to stay and fully recover, the Samaritan would be paying that bill. This hurt man didn't need to do anything to be healed, recovered, or restored. It was done for him. And this is exactly what Jesus has done for us and wants us to do for others. When we have a worldview shift of this magnitude, we do what we need for the sake of others, even if it means we lose some of our own comfort to make that happen, so that we can love someone despite who they are, despite what they look like, what they've done, what political party they attach themselves to, what religion they believe in, where they've come from, or whatever. To love our neighbor does not come with a caveat, a designator, or a disclaimer. That's a worldview shift, and that is the worldview shift the Good Samaritan teaches us. Are you brave enough to do this and live, love like that?
This next song is called The Secret Place. Where will you run, my soul? Where will you go when wells run dry? When the wind starts to blow, how you gonna keep this flame alive? In the fading not let me go. I know that I'm safe inside your hand. In the fading light when night is breaking, I know you will always be waiting. You will always be there. I'm running to the secret place where you are, where you are. I'll sing to you all the ways you stole my heart, stole my heart. Better is the moment that I spend with you than a million other days away. I'm running, I'm running, I'm running to the secret place. Hands are lifted high, hearts awake to life. We are satisfied here with you, here with you. Chains will hit the floor, broken lives restored. We couldn't ask for more here with you, here with you. Hands are lifted high, hearts awake to life. We are sad.